Catastrophic injuries are injuries that affect a person for their entire life, rather than injuries that are self-limiting, such as a neck sprain or back sprain or something of that nature. I have represented many clients with regards to catastrophic injuries. I have represented clients that are involved in car accidents in particular. I had a client who was walking across the street, an elderly gentleman, 80 years old, and pulling his grocery cart when he was hit by a city bus. He was struck by the front of the bus and knocked to the ground, and he sustained a fractured skull and had bleeding in his brain. They had to remove part of his skull and place a plate there. And he was in the hospital for 3 months and in rehab for another 9 months. So it effectively took a year of his life. And when he was discharged, he had to have a caregiver, whereas before he was taking care of himself, even though he was 80 years old. It was a particularly sad case because his daughter was autistic, and he took joy in visiting her in the facility where she had to stay, and for nearly a year he could not visit her, and of course this caused great distress for her as well as for him. The bus company originally tried to blame my client and said that he had darted across the street with his grocery cart. I mean, the absurdity of an 80-year-old man darting across the street with his grocery cart struck me as a very strange defense to begin with. We also were able to obtain the video from the bus, because the bus has video, and it showed that he was proceeding, number one, very casually across the street and not running, and also that the bus driver he had turned left when it was unsafe to do so, and had hit the client who was legally in the crosswalk. So after we did some discovery and litigation, we were able to settle that case for a large amount, and it was enough money at least to take care of the client for the rest of his life. I have also had death cases involving catastrophic injuries. I've had cases in which people have received brain injuries or other traumatic injuries to their body. I represented a Korean woman who was in a van, and the van was struck by a large tractor trailer in a T-bone type of collision out in Imperial County. She received brain injuries. She was in a coma for several weeks. When she came out of her coma, she needed rehabilitation to learn to speak again. We had to file a lawsuit against the owner of the tractor trailer. Eventually, after some discovery, we were able to settle the case for $5 million. And also there were terrible injuries to her grandmother and her nephew, who were killed in the accident. Those cases eventually went to trial, but we were able to recover more than what was being offered. So catastrophic injuries not only affect the person himself that are injured, but also the family members. In the case of the elderly gentleman, his daughter, who was in a facility, who was autistic, was deprived of the company and attention of her father for a year. In the case of the Korean woman who received brain injuries, she had young children and a husband who were deprived of her company and a normal existence for the rest of her life. So catastrophic injuries are injuries that are devastating, not only to the person who is injured, but to everyone who loves them as well.